Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our draft analysis number 2 for the APA Season 7. If you guys didn't remember or didn't know, I guess and didn't hear about it in the last draft analysis, every 4 weeks we'll be redrafting for this until playoffs. It's a 12-week league, really long, but it's a 12-week league. We used our first team for the first 4 weeks on a Crosman team with like Necro, Weavile. Gosh, my thing is like super uneven. And I can't do it while I'm like looking in the thing because it's messing me up even more. So let's just re-put it on. But we used our Necrozma Weavile team for weeks 1 through 4, and then in the middle of week 3, actually, we started drafting for this next upcoming 4 weeks. And this is going to be our team here. We got a middle pick this time, which is pretty crazy considering what we have. We'll kind of talk about that. We got a middle pick here, which ensures that we'll have a really high draft slot in the top 5 for the last draft, which is really important. But I'd like to at least go even here. But the goal is to go positive in each of these 4 weeks. That pretty much secures you playoffs. But even is guaranteed what we need, or we're in a bad spot because we've lost our last 2 weeks in really close 1-0 games to Shuttle King and Amel. We started off 2-0 and have kind of been skidding really everywhere. We're in a bit of a slump draft league wise, so hopefully we can pick it up here. Really quick note, this is going up the day that our week 5 battle is going up because I've just been a little bit busy, a little bit preoccupied in my free time as well, I won't lie. So this will go up now, and then later on tonight at some point, probably like 3-4 o'clock, we'll have our week 5 battle against JV go up. Yeah, with that being said, if you guys enjoy today's video, enjoy our new team, be sure to drop a like as well as sub if you're new, and drop a comment down below on what your favorite Pokemon on our team is. Yeah, with that being said, let's jump into it. So our first Pokemon, we had like 7th or 8th pick, something pretty bad, but Mew, I think it was 8th. Mew ended up falling to us, which is really insane. I think this Pokemon should go top 5 in Galar decks, guaranteed every single time. So the fact that it fell to me at 8th pick really is pretty flabbergasting. Jack of all trades, master of none, I guess, or master of all, or I don't know, Jack of all trades, master of none. I don't know exactly how to say it, but Mew does. I should probably know the saying before I say it out loud. But Mew really does everything. It's phenomenal. Now, I do typically stand in the field that defensive fat Mew is usually the best Mew because it really just blanket checks what feels like the entire game. Stallbreaker Mew is the best Mew set. But it does have the capabilities of being a setup sweeper on literally all sides of the field, whether that be Swords Dancer, Dragon Dance, or Calm Mind, or Nasty Plot, or Bulk Up. Pretty much every single coverage move you would want. If you want to use it as a hazards lead or just a hazard spawn in general, you can do so. Like I said, you can Stallbreaker and you can taunt Will-O-Wisp or taunt Toxic. You can use it as a decent Scarfer with access to Volt Switch and U-Turn. And again, pretty crazy coverage. Its raw offensive stats aren't going to be too insane, but when you get a boost behind it, it's definitely nice. And again, that pure Psychic typing with 100 bulk across the board is really great. Now, when it comes to Mew, drafting around it, in my personal opinion, one, you should get things to really punish other potential bulky psychics as well as bulky darks especially. But two, the main thing I really think is important with Mew is drafting as if it's not there. Trying to build a functioning team with Mew existing is really important, because then you can kind of free up Mew. If you draft Mew with a specific role in mind for it, it's going to be pigeonholed into those roles more often than not. So the goal for a Mew draft should be to kind of draft if it's just not there, and that's kind of what we're going to hopefully do. But next up, I grabbed a partner that I think is very good for Gengar, or for Mew. I just spoiled it. That some other people don't for some reason. I don't know. But we're going to pick up Gengar right here, and I think Gengar is really solid. I like it with Mew plus something to really break down Darks, a good either offensive Dark, which is great for other bulky psychics, but really other things that Gengar doesn't appreciate as well, because Gengar really does bully those fairies, but it's also really good with a good offensive fighting, because one, it bullies those fairies, and like a good fighting type can really bully those fat normals and those fat dark types and things like that, which is really important. Gengar gives us a nice 110 speed tier, so we have that 100 and 110 right away, which again, really solid. We'll definitely take that. Really good wall breaker. If we can get it in and get free switches for it, then it's going to come in, it's going to click buttons, it's going to do well. Gengar's Pokemon I've really come to enjoy over the last couple months playing draft. Pokemon I really didn't enjoy at the start of the gen for a couple months actually when I tried it a few times, but I realized when you try and get too cute with Gengar and run too many elaborate sets, just when it doesn't do its best. But if you just come in and you click Scarf or Specs or Life Orb, Shadow Ball, and Sludge Wave, you're going to have a good time, and that's obviously great. It does have great utility moves though, like Will-O-Wisp and Trick and Destiny Bond. And Disable, I've seen Sub-Disable do a lot of work, which is also really cool. I've definitely done that myself in the past too. So Gengar can do a lot, but its bread and butter is just clicking buttons, and that's going to be really solid to have a nice breaker like Gengar on the team. Next up, I got that offensive fighting in Camo. Really nice with Gengar in my personal opinion, because Gengar does, again, really bully those fat fairies and those potentially fat psychics as well. It doesn't switch into them, but bullies them really well. While Camo bullies those fat normals and those fat darks, they're going to switch in on Gengar's dual stabs, which is great. And those fat steels that want to switch in on, what do you call it, sludge waves and sludge bombs and things like that, which again, really clutch. There's another really versatile Pokemon in my opinion. I love Camo because it can be fat defensive rocks with iron defensive body press because it's really bulky. A lot of people really sleep on how annoyingly fat this Pokemon is, but it also gets Dragon Dance and Swords Dance to set up on the physical side, as well as Autotomize and Clangorous Soul, which is an Omni boosting move, but it does take away 33% of your health, which is a bit of a pretty steep drawback in my personal opinion, especially because it's a Pokemon that is liable to get revenged by Scarfers due to its speed tier. I'd rather just Dragon Dance most of the time or Auto or something, but still very solid. It can make use of Throat Spray as well with either Clangorous Soul or Clanging Scales, both of them being sound-based moves. Great abilities in Soundproof, Bulletproof, and Overcoat, especially those first two, really giving it solid, move immunities to things like Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb and things like that, which can, again, be really clutch in giving us free pivots and things like that, or forcing specific prep, which I'll definitely take. It's a solid rocker, so we have another rocker outside of Mew, but we'll definitely get more, because I'd rather not use these two to rock if I don't need to, if that makes any sense, but definitely a very solid one, and it's just very strong offensively, very bulky, and really helps out Gengar and Mew really a lot, so we'll definitely take it. Next up, we grab Swampert, good old reliable. A little bit of roll compression, which I think is important at this point in the draft, especially because we're going with a little bit more of a unorthodox offensive core there at the top. We grab Swampert, gives good momentum and flip turn. It can set rocks. That water ground typing is obviously phenomenal. It's really cool having a water that's not weak to electric. It does suck having a water that doesn't resist ice, and it's 4 times weak to freeze dry. But that's something we'll have to hopefully patch up later on that we didn't do super well with on our last team with Seismitoad, and we didn't do very well with it with Seismitoad in the BBL. So hopefully we can do that here, but very reliable rocker. Again, can be physical special, just going to be an annoying nuisance, really solid pivot. If we can find ways to wish it up and keep it healthy too, it's really hard to kill. Lefties protect, Swampert is always a great thing. It can toxic things, scald things, again, just be a general nuisance and do what Swampert does. It gets bulk up too, so I think bulk up Pert's definitely a viable option. I've seen CB Pert even put in a lot of work in certain matches when people are expected to be fat and passive, and then it comes in and clicks a Choice Band, Liquidation, or Earthquake and does a lot more damage than you really thought it would, but that's going to be Swampert. Next up, we grabbed our Dark type and Galarian Moltres. This is a Pokemon I've wanted to try for so freaking long, and I'm glad I finally got to try it. Really does give us a solid ghost switching because we don't have a good ghost resist up to this point. This thing is really fat. If this thing got roosted, it would be insane. Unfortunately, it doesn't, but we can still rest up, which is really clutch, and just naturally take those hits great. Berserk is a phenomenal ability, really allowing us to boost our special attack even if we are more defensive set. If we're getting hit below half, we're getting a free +1 just for that. Even if we're more defensive, not very invested, don't have other setup moves, Fire Blast and Hurricane's going to hit really hard, and that Dark plus Flying coverage is actually really solid neutrally against a lot of teams. It can also Nasty Plot and Agility, which is really nice. It can Taunt, it can Sucker Punch for priority, which is cool, but the main thing is that it beats bulky Psychic, so we didn't really have anything on our team that kind of could do so. In fact, our entire team kind of lost to them up to this point. I mean, Mew can beat some of them, but Moltres definitely gives us a Psychic immunity, which is really clutch in my personal opinion. And we have a really good fighting resist, so I wasn't worried about my flying type not resisting fighting, so that's definitely really clutch when having Mew plus Moltres. Also gets U-turn for momentum, which I did forget to mention, but that's going to be Moltres. Next up, we got Klefki, gives us a Fairy type, gives us a Steel type as well, so a little bit of roll compression, gives us some defog, gives us spikes, it gives us screens if we want to go screens with Camo and Mew, which is definitely a very viable option. Just a great utility Pokemon. Prankster T-Wave could be great for things like Gengar, as well as Camo, potentially Mew, for just like a Swords Dance or a Nasty Plot set or something like that, and can just, again, be a general nuisance and really stop some teams in their track. It's a very expensive Klefki, which I didn't really realize when I picked it, which is really unfortunate because it kind of does force us to budget a little bit here going forward, but it also gives us an Ice Resist, which we did not have up to this point. We kind of lose to an Ice type move, and Klefki isn't the best Ice Resist, so we'll hopefully grab another one a little bit later on, a little bit more of a budget one potentially, but one regardless. But Klefki's still very solid. Good defensive typing, gets Magnet Rise for ground types too, which is definitely a cool tool. And yeah, really solid mon. I like Klefki a lot. Next up, we end up grabbing Rhodum. If you look at my team right now, I don't deal with bulky waters in the slightest. I don't have a way of pivoting into them really that well, and I don't really have a way of immediately breaking and pressuring them. Rhodum is not only a great Scald switch in, but it also just bullies pretty much every grass type or water type in existence with its dual stab combination. It spreads status, it volt switches around, it defogs if we need it to, it nasty plots if we need it to as well, which is really clutch. And it also gives the ground immunity, another ground immunity, which is really, really nice. Our team is a little bit ground weak at this point because Moltres isn't the most fizz def mod in the world, and we're typically probably going to be using it for other things. I'd rather not use a non-roosting Moltres as my pivot into offensive grounds. I can click stone, it should do a lot of damage. We can more so use Rhodum for that role, which I think is really important and really solid for the team for sure. Next up, I want to grab a normal type. The best one left available because Emil took round 5 Licky because he knew I was going to take it soon. I actually ended up drafting Kangaskhan. Really good budget normal. It's actually one of my favorites to draft outside of Licky. You just don't see me draft a lot because I'm always drafting Licky. But really, really solid mod. It can pass pretty fat wishes into things like Camo, Pert, Moltres, Clefairy, and Rhodum, which is really solid. Does get access to heal belt as well. Can throw off Scrappy Facades. It's a solid Spectre check as well, which I think is really, really important. Being able to throw off Scrappy Facade is really nice. Not being just, whisked down and be fodder and things like that. I believe it has Fake Out and Sucker Punch for priority. Offensive Kanga is definitely a viable option to potentially run against a lot of teams as well, which I think is really important. But yeah, I definitely like Kanga. It's a little bit less bulky than the other than Licky. But it still provides some of that utility and is pretty strong offensively with a solid speed tier in the 90s, which is, again, nothing to be too upset about. Next up, I actually grabbed Cortana. I was really excited about this. I was still really worried about bulky waters. I feel like I couldn't just rely on Rhodum Mo for that, so I ended up grabbing Cortana. It also helps me break down fairies as well, outside of Gengar. I really, really like this Pokemon offensively, and I feel like since we have another Steel type, and we had a lot of points left over at this point, and there was nothing really else that I needed besides our next pick, which I kind of planned out and knew that I was going to get. I thought this Pokemon would be solid. It also gives me a better Scarfer than Gengar, in my personal opinion, or not even a better Scarfer, just another Scarfer, which is really, really nice. And yeah, just a nice wall breaker, nice physical wall breaker, which we did not have up to this point. Camo wouldn't even consider a wall breaker. Cortana with its base like 181 attack or whatever it is, I would definitely consider a wall breaker. So I'll take Cortana here in the late rounds. I'm excited to finally try it. It's a Pokemon that I've never got around to using just because it's really hard to fit on drafts in my personal opinion, but I'll definitely take getting it here in round number 9. And then lastly, to round it off, I grabbed a 5-point Mag Mortar just because it gives us a way to break down bulky seals even more, which team, doesn't need the most of, but, could definitely appreciate outside of just Camo Swampert. So really, it's just kind of Camo. But Mag Mortar gives me a way to pressure those Pokemon as well as giving me a Freeze Dry resist and another Ice resist outside of Clefairy, which was our only one up to this point, which definitely isn't great. So I figured Mag Mortar could be nice with boots. It actually has a little bit more defensive longevity and viability. Solid coverage overall. Gets T-Bolt for what do you call it? For water types. Someone said for grasses. I was like, wait a minute, you're a fire type. We can fire blast together things and stuff like that, which is definitely nice. It can, maybe we could pull off a funny belly drum sweep one time or the other. It gets Mach Punch for priority, which is interesting as well. But yeah, pretty fun stuff. Just gonna be Mag Mortar. Helps us out with those, ice types and ice type moves. And yeah, that's gonna be the team. Let me know what you think in the description, in the comments below. I definitely like it. I think it's a lot of fun. We lack some top high-end speed tier, which isn't really good. But I think Mew, Gengar, Camo is a great, phenomenal first 3, especially for a mid-pick in a draft. I think this team is pretty cool. So, again, let me know what your favorite member of the team is. Drop a like, sub if you're new. See you guys next time.